Stillness is not the absence of movement, but the cultivation of intentional pause, a deliberate act of stepping back from the world's noise to reconnect with one's center. When the body remains motionless, the mind initially resists, flooded with thoughts and urges to act, but over time, the storm settles and the silence deepens. In this space, awareness sharpens, and what was once chaotic begins to align. The origin of true focus does not lie in straining harder or doing more, but in the quiet moments where nothing is demanded, and the mind is free to observe without judgment. In this neutral space, distractions lose their grip, and the mind returns to its original nature, still, clear, undisturbed. Like mud sinking in calm water, mental clarity emerges as movement fades. In the practice of stillness, one learns the discipline of non-reaction. The impulse to shift, to reach, to respond, each is an opportunity to remain instead. It is through this non-doing that one trains the muscles of attention, not by force, but through steady witnessing. Attention strengthens not when it chases, but when it holds. When you remove the outer noise, the inner noise becomes more audible. This is not a problem, but a process. To hear the endless chatter of the mind is to begin understanding its patterns. With understanding comes insight, and with insight comes the ability to navigate thought rather than be led by it. Breathing becomes the anchor, not manipulated or forced, but observed. Each inhale, each exhale, a reminder that presence lives in rhythm. As the breath slows, the nervous system follows, and the mental agitation begins to settle. The body rests, the mind watches, and attention gathers itself naturally. Stillness invites simplicity, and in simplicity lies strength. The fewer elements that occupy the mind, the more power it has to engage deeply with what remains. A single point of focus, uninterrupted, can accomplish more than scattered efforts across a dozen directions. To sit in stillness is to trust that doing less can result in more. It is to surrender the illusion that constant action leads to control. Instead, it is through restraint, through silence, through non-interference that clarity arises. The mind begins to reflect the calm around it. Like a mirror undisturbed by ripples, repeated exposure to stillness forms familiarity, and familiarity becomes ease. With ease comes depth. With depth comes the ability to access focus, not through strain, but through alignment. From this alignment, actions are no longer reactions. They are precise, intentional, and deeply rooted. Discipline is not measured by grand gestures, but by the quiet repetition of small acts done daily. When a person commits to consistency, they train more than the body or the mind. They train their character. The value lies not in the scale of the effort, but in the steadiness of its rhythm. A single drop of water may seem insignificant, but over time, it carves through stone. Intensity often burns bright for a moment, then fades. It is the nature of a flame that consumes too quickly to exhaust itself. Consistency, on the other hand, is like a slow, burning ember. It may not dazzle, but it sustains. The progress built through steady effort becomes difficult to undo because it is woven deeply into one's habits. When the focus shifts from doing much to doing something every day, the burden becomes lighter and the path becomes clearer. A few minutes of mindful breath, a short movement practice, a single act of presence repeated each morning builds more strength than an hour of scattered effort once in a while. Repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity breeds stability. Many seek immediate transformation and grow impatient when change does not arrive quickly. But nature teaches otherwise. A tree grows inch by inch, its roots expanding in silence long before its branches reach the sky. So it is with mental clarity and inner power. They grow slowly, shaped by consistency that holds, even when no result appears. Consistency strengthens the bridge between intention and action. Every time one follows through with a chosen task, no matter how small, the connection between thought and behavior becomes firmer. Over time, this alignment removes hesitation, and action becomes an extension of one's will. It is not motivation but discipline that carries the weight of growth. Inconsistent effort teaches the mind to doubt itself. A practice started and abandoned sends a message of uncertainty, weakening resolve. But a practice maintained, even in its simplest form, builds self-trust. The mind begins to believe in its own ability to commit, and this belief becomes the foundation for deeper transformation. The simplicity of daily practice invites mindfulness. When an act is repeated each day, it is no longer a task to conquer, but a mirror to observe oneself. Some days will feel smooth, others resistant, yet the practice remains the same. Through this consistency, one learns to move beyond mood, beyond circumstance, and into devotion. Intensity depends on energy, but consistency relies on intention. Energy fluctuates. Some days are strong, others fragile. But intention can be steady. When practice becomes part of one's rhythm, it no longer waits for the right time. It becomes the time itself, woven into the breath, the step, the day. The body is not separate from the mind, but a reflection of it. Every thought leaves an imprint. Every feeling resonates somewhere in the physical form. When we begin to engage the body with awareness, we begin to notice that memory too lives in posture, in breath, in the way we move. The mind may forget, but the body remembers what the mind overlooks. When movement is synchronized with intention, the mind becomes alert and receptive. A simple gesture, repeated with focus, becomes more than movement. It becomes an anchor. This is why learning through the body often lasts longer than learning through words alone. The integration of physical engagement with mental presence forms deeper neural pathways. Walking while repeating a lesson, moving while reciting a phrase, or breathing in rhythm while recalling an image. All these practices align the body's rhythm with the mind's task. The repetition no longer sits in the head alone. It is carried in the step, felt in the breath, known in the hands. This physical repetition adds layers of memory beyond mental retention. The body grounds the mind. In moments of stillness, attention floats. In movement, it is directed. That is why mindful physical practices such as martial arts, qigong, or even disciplined walking sharpen the capacity to remember. The body becomes a map, and each movement marks a location for thought to return to. When we train the body with presence, we are also training awareness, and where awareness deepens, memory stabilizes. Memory is not just about information. It is about presence at the time of receiving. If the body is present during learning, the imprint it leaves is clearer, more accessible. When recalled, muscle memory is more than just repetition. It is embodied knowledge. A form practiced again and again teaches the mind to step aside and let the body perform. Over time, the mind no longer needs to recall each detail consciously. The body executes what it has learned silently, faithfully, and without confusion. Touch, movement, spatial awareness all activate different regions of the brain than passive observation. When we use our senses in learning, memory becomes multidimensional. It is not stored in just one place, but across a network of experience. This layered approach makes memory more resilient, more alive, more connected to real understanding. To strengthen memory, train the body to participate. Involve breath in reading, include movement in reciting, use space and direction in visualizing. Let the body become the tool, not just the container. In this way, what is learned becomes part of who you are. not just something you try to remember. Simplicity is often mistaken for weakness, yet it is the most direct path to mastery. When the mind is scattered by complexity, energy is wasted in managing chaos. But when we choose simplicity, we sharpen our focus. One task, one principle, one breath. This approach trains discipline by eliminating distraction and inviting clarity. The disciplined mind does not seek more, it seeks less. Fewer options, fewer impulses, fewer interruptions. By removing the unnecessary, what remains becomes sacred. Repetition in simplicity is not boredom, it is refinement. Through the repetition of the simple, depth is found, and within that depth, transformation begins. A simple routine followed daily develops more strength than a complex schedule abandoned halfway. It is not the difficulty of the task that develops discipline, but the commitment to do it again and again. Even the smallest act, if done consistently and with care, becomes a vessel for inner structure. Simplicity does not mean ease, it means focus. When a task is stripped of excess, the practitioner has no place to hide from the effort it demands. There is no complexity to distract or justify, only the practice and the one doing it. This honesty between self and action is where discipline is formed. The discipline born from simplicity builds quiet power. There is no need for force or external validation. The process itself becomes the reward. A straight path walked with attention is more powerful than a winding trail of scattered intentions. Simplicity allows the practitioner to see their own mind more clearly in the doing. Through simplicity, we learn to return. Return to the breath, return to the step, return to the task. Each return is an act of discipline. The habit of beginning again without complaint or hesitation is what strengthens resolve, and this strength does not shout. It endures complexity, invites excuses. Simplicity removes them. When the path is clear, only the will to walk it remains. In that space, discipline has the room to grow. There are no shortcuts, no justifications, only the quiet choice to continue what one started. Even when it feels small, simplicity teaches us that the value of a practice is not in how impressive it appears, but in how deeply it is rooted. The simpler the form, the more it demands of the mind. The more precise the repetition, the more exacting the attention. And in this narrowing of focus, discipline is purified. Focused attention is not something we are born with, it is something we cultivate. Just as strength is built through repeated physical training, the ability to concentrate is forged through deliberate mental effort. The mind is naturally restless, drawn toward distraction, but this is not a flaw. It is the beginning of training. To focus is to guide the mind gently back, again and again, each time it wanders. This act of returning is not failure, it is practice. Each return is like lifting a weight, gradually building the muscle of awareness. The more often one returns to the task, the more stable the attention becomes. Many believe that focus comes from interest or passion alone, but interest is temporary. Discipline sustains what passion begins. When attention is trained, it becomes independent of mood, free from the highs and lows of emotion. A trained mind does not need perfect conditions. It carries its focus wherever it goes. One breath, fully observed. One sound, fully heard. One step, fully felt. These are the practices that sharpen attention. The point is not the action itself, but the quality of presence brought to it. When attention is full, the task becomes simple. When attention is scattered, even simple tasks feel heavy. Focus is not about holding tightly, but about letting go of what is not essential. It is the art of choosing one thing over many. The discipline lies in saying no to thoughts, to impulses, to distractions, again and again, until the mind learns to remain where it is placed. External silence is helpful, but not required. What matters is internal silence, the ability to notice thought without following it. This separation between awareness and noise is what creates space for focus to grow. It is in that space that intention takes root and becomes action. Focused attention is the foundation of all learning, all mastery, all insight. Without it, knowledge becomes shallow and actions lose direction. But with it, each moment becomes meaningful, each effort becomes precise. Training the mind to stay is not instant, but with time, it becomes natural. Begin with minutes, not hours. Focus on one breath before many. Let the training be slow, honest, and repetitive. With every session, the mind resists less, the distractions lose strength, and attention begins to settle like dust in still air. Mental energy is not infinite. Like the physical body, the mind has its own limits, its own cycles of strength and fatigue. When this energy is scattered on unimportant thoughts, constant reactions, and unnecessary tension, the mind becomes tired without producing anything of value. Preservation begins with awareness of where energy is going. Each thought carries weight. The more thoughts pulled in opposing directions, the heavier the mind becomes. Overthinking, worrying, and replaying the past drain energy that could be used for clarity, creativity, and purpose. The discipline lies not in controlling every thought, but in learning which ones are worth following and which are not. The habit of constant stimulation, scrolling, switching tasks, chasing novelty, breaks attention into fragments. This fragmentation is not neutral, it weakens the depth of focus. Mental strength is not the result of more input, but of intentional filtering. Choose wisely what enters the mind, for what enters begins to shape it. Preserving mental energy begins with boundaries. Not every conversation requires engagement. Not every situation requires a reaction. The more one learns to remain still in the face of noise, the more strength is kept within. Silence is not emptiness. It is conservation, a way of directing energy inward rather than leaking it outward. The mind that rests regularly is sharper when it is called upon. Rest does not only mean sleep. It means moments of no input, no decision, no processing. In these moments, the mind breathes. It resets, recovers, and regathers itself. Without these spaces of stillness, mental fatigue becomes the norm. Focus is not a matter of effort alone, but of conservation. When energy is preserved throughout the day, it becomes available for what truly matters. Like water stored in a vessel, it is ready when needed. Spilled constantly, it is never there. At the moment of purpose, mental clarity grows in simplicity. Fewer decisions, fewer open loops, fewer internal conflicts. Every unresolved choice and unattended thought consumes energy in the background. To preserve strength, resolve what you can and release what you cannot. This is not avoidance. It is refinement of where attention is placed. When the mind is disciplined in what it absorbs, where it dwells, and how it responds, it becomes light, calm, and precise. Preservation is not resistance, it is wisdom. It is knowing that mental energy is life force, and treating it with respect is the beginning of conscious living.